got married too young and I regret it. Let's read about the crazy things happening in other people's lives so that we don't have to think about our own. I'm 22 female. I got married when I was 18 to someone much older than me, my 41 male husband. At the time, I thought I was mature and knew what I was doing. Now, I'm not so sure. He's the only relationship I've ever had, the only person I've ever been with intimately. I never dated. I never lived on my own. I basically went from being a teenager to someone's wife. Now that I'm older, I feel like I'm finally seeing things in a different light. I made a lifelong commitment before I had fully figured out who I was. I never dated, never explored my sexuality, never really had time to just be young and single. Last year, I had a crush on a guy in my class who's closer to my age. Nothing happened, I didn't cheat, but it completely altered my perception on how I see my marriage. Since then, I constantly daydream about being single, dating, being with someone younger, and just experiencing a different kind of life. But the problem is, I'm financially dependent on my husband. I'm in university and can't work full time to afford the high cost of living in a big city. I don't have family I can rely on. I don't have savings. If I left, I honestly don't know how I'd survive. I feel completely codependent. I'm unhappy, but I'm also scared that maybe I'm romanticizing being single. What if I leave and regret it? What if I blow up my whole life over FOMO? At the same time, I can't ignore that I feel trapped in my marriage. The dynamic between us feels more like roommates than romantic partners. We aren't intimate, we rarely do things together, and there's very little passion or excitement. I don't feel deeply seen or sexually fulfilled. He's not a bad person. He's generally supportive and stable, but I can't force myself to feel that spark or emotional connection that I crave with someone younger. Has anyone left a marriage young with no safety net? Or am I doomed? How did you prepare? How did you know that it was the right decision? I feel like it's worth acknowledging that divorce is a huge life decision. It's something that you should take really seriously, I think, and, take any advice that you receive about it, including mine, with a grain of salt. I'll note that I am a divorce attorney. I practice in that area. But what I'm about to say is absolutely not legal advice. It's just my own personal opinion. And I'll be honest, my sympathy for your husband is very limited. I don't know what a 40-year-old man expects when he marries a teenager. And some people may disagree with me. Some people may say you're an adult, age is just a number, blah, blah, blah. And I do think that as you get older, age gaps matter a lot less. But there's something deeply uncomfortable to me about a grown adult, like a 40-something-year-old man, convincing a teenager to commit the rest of their lives together before they've even had a chance to live as adults. You're not alone. So many people get divorces, and so many people end up getting divorced young, unfortunately. You probably wouldn't walk away with nothing. Now, again, this isn't legal advice, but at least where I practice, when you get divorced, you would be entitled to at least some of the assets in a marriage. And again, I don't know your situation or where you live or what the laws are there, but typically when you get divorced, you're breaking a part of a union, and whatever assets are a part of that union should be divided up. My biggest advice would be you want to prepare. So start saving money. Save some money now, even if it's small. Put away what you can. I think it's worth it to start applying to scholarships, grants, financial aid, maybe other types of social aid that might be available where you live to try to offset the financial implications that a divorce can have. Talk to your university, see what sort of resources they have there for students. I'm sure you're not the first one to be in a situation like this, even if it might feel like it right now. And my biggest advice would be to talk to a lawyer so that you know what to expect if you do get a divorce. Sometimes knowing what that process looks like and likely outcomes can help you guide your decision in general. People get divorced for all kinds of reasons, and I guess what I can say is this doesn't sound like the worst reason I've ever heard for a divorce. Let's see what the top comment says here. Whatever you do, don't get pregnant. You'll be trapped even longer than financially for a degree. Good advice. Having a child does complicate things much further. It's a lot harder to have a cleaner break when there's a child involved. A final thought is, although my sympathy for this man is quite low, there's something to be said about staying with someone when you're secretly unhappy. Some might say that that's not that fair to him for you to stay in a marriage where you know it's not working, and maybe he's aware of that, maybe he's not. Again, just my personal opinion with the very little information we have here. It sounds like you're young, you have a lot of life ahead of you. I don't think a divorce would be the end of you, but it's a big decision, so think about it carefully is what I would say. All right, that's it for now. Join me next time to read more stories from the closet.